The Jim Fannin Show. We've come to take your mind.
Am I still on? Lamar is my guest. All politics, all American, all Arizona. We'll talk about God, faith, and politics. Buckle up and welcome aboard. This is his Twitter profile. That's where you can catch him on social media. And the links are in the show description. This is his website. Christian, if you could just unmute your mic, tell us how you're feeling, brother. How's things in the political arena in the States? Man, it's crazy. We're just waiting for Biden to come out to close. I don't know who came up with this idea of a big boy press conference, but he's just coming out to close out the NATO summit. And so I appreciate your time. How you feeling?
Good. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Everything's good. I'm in the Dominican Republic, man. It's sunny and 85 degrees plus 300 plus days a year. So I got no issues, man. I don't have to deal with my crazy government. That's kind of why I left Canada. And so everything's good here, man. Tell me, what's the latest? What do you, before we dive into the beginnings, because I'm really interested in who you are as a man, tell us what you're up to right now.
Well, right now, of course, a lot of people have heard about the AZGOP expelling me as off of the executive committee, of the only black member on the executive committee. And so, since that's happened, I made a video about that. It's gotten over 5.7 million views since the last few hours that I've checked. And I have, and that's on Twitter X, and then I've got that also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and a couple of other places. So millions and millions of people have been, seeing me or just seeing me in politics for the first time, and so I have that going on, and we're still signing up new precinct committeemen inside Arizona, and then of course my day job, I work in the private sector, information technology, and really other than that, just preparing like everyone else for President Trump coming up in the next few months to see whether or not he becomes president again on Tuesday, November the 5th.
Okay, so what led to your ousting? I don't think you're saying this, and I don't want to believe that it's because you're black. Arizona's got some weird politics going on. So what led to your ousting? Like, were you a rabble-rouser? Are you stirring the pot too much, or what?
It's really quite simple. The bottom line is you have the Republican AZ state legislature. So backing up for the audience. So for those of you who are not in the United States, and maybe for others that are in the United States but that don't quite understand the politics of the presidency. Of course, the presidency is, a lot of people say the presidency, office of the president of the United States, is the most powerful position inside the country. And of course, with that means that You have a certain number of blue states and a certain number of red states that pretty much end up determining who the president is. And every 4 years, we're looking at a battleground map for the elections. This battleground map is pretty much, for the most part, almost always the same. Even way back when, in 2016, we were talking about the same states. In 2020, we were talking about the same states. And in 2024, we're going to be talking about the same states. And those states are really comprised of Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And then you have some bubble states that are in there. You might have a Virginia, you might have a Minnesota, you might have a New Mexico, you might have a New Jersey. But for the most part, some people have said North Carolina, but for the most part, you're pretty much looking between those 6 plus or minus a few other states. And so Arizona being one of those states, I'm in Arizona. And of course, Arizona is, most people think that Arizona is a Republican state. And of course, Arizona has a state legislature that's under Republican control. There's 2 chambers, a state house and a state senate. And so many of those at home might say, well, what does that have to do with you? Well, it has everything to do with me. So the political power, or in other words, people who get elected into office, whether you're a first-time candidate, whether you're an incumbent running for re-election, or whether you are trying to move up to a higher office, you have to go through the political power in order to get elected. And what is the political power? The political power would be the Republican Party, as an example, or a Republican committee. Let's say if it's a county committee. And so now to Arizona. Arizona has 15 counties in it. One of the 15 counties is Maricopa County. Maricopa County is the largest county in the United States. And given that Maricopa County is the largest county in the United States, also dating back to 2015, when President Trump started the America First movement, his very first rally was in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, he had around 500 people to attend that rally in 2015. The second rally in 2015 that he had was right here in Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Phoenix Convention Center downtown. So we started and at that rally, there were 3,000 people at that rally at the Phoenix Convention Center. So we started the America First movement here in Phoenix, Arizona, in Maricopa County. So now what does this all have to do with the state legislature? Well, according to our federal U.S. Constitution, which is the highest law in the land, according to the supremacy clause in the Constitution of the United States, the state legislature sets the time, place, and manner of elections, and the state legislature appoints the presidential electors. The only place of where the state legislature is mentioned in the U.S. Constitution, the federal Constitution, is in those 2 instances: the time, place, and manner of elections, and the presidential electors. So the legislature's focus is protecting the elections according to the highest law in the land. And so what you have right now is you have the establishment. So now back to the political power. So when those establishment politicians are either currently in office or seeking a higher office, where do they go when they are running as a first-time candidate, running as an incumbent, or running for a higher office in the government? They first, obviously they file their papers at the Secretary of State. They might create a finance committee so that when they're raising money to keep track of that by law. And then after they've done that, they have to do what? Every candidate has to collect signatures to get their name on the ballot. Now, where do politicians, candidates, incumbents, where do they all go to get signatures on, to get the signatures that they need to get on the ballot? The political party. And who inside the political party do they go to? The precinct committeeman. What is a precinct committeeman? A precinct committeeman is a voting member of the political party. Precinct committeemen also have the power to qualify candidates. Well, what do I mean by qualify candidates? Well, when the politicians are trying to get their name on the ballot, they're coming to see precinct committeemen. So whether that's a justice of the peace, or whether that's a member of the state legislature, whether that's a member of the U.S. House, U.S. Senate, how about this? How about the President of the United States? When President Trump was running in the 2024 primary at the beginning of this year in the Iowa caucuses, where was the former president of the United States? He was inside the precincts talking to the political party inside Iowa. Where was President Trump in the New Hampshire primary? I saw Don Jr. in the New Hampshire primary speaking in front of a crowd of 60 people right before the New Hampshire primary. So why is it that a former president who's running for president again needs to go into these small groups or speak in front of a small number of people, like 60 people? Because they need to go in the political party to get the nomination and become the nominee for president. And the same applies for the state legislature. And so back to here in Arizona. So we have a Republican AZ state legislature, 2 chambers, a state house, a state senate. You have a Republican party that is very large. Maricopa County is the largest county in the United States, or largest Republican county in the United States, and then the 4th largest populous county as far as populations go. So you've got a huge county, and of course, how about the dynamics of the Republican Party? When you talk to Republican voters and you ask them whether or not they support President Trump, you find that 90% of Republicans support President Trump. So now you have 1 million Trump voters inside Maricopa County, either registered Republican voters, or you have right-leaning independents or party not declared voters. So once you add up all the numbers and you say 90% of all of those voters support Trump, that's 1 million voters. So you have 1 million voters who support President Trump. You have a Republican AZ state legislature, and then you have a Maricopa GOP. Here's the problem. The establishment does not support President Trump. So that 10% of the registered Republicans doesn't support President Trump. But then you also have what? You have precinct committeemen who don't support President Trump. So now inside of the Maricopa GOP, we have 8,000 seats. We have less than 50% of those seats currently filled in the Maricopa GOP. So in other words, half of our party is vacant, which these would be the seats that are the qualifiers for candidates running into office. So anybody that wants to give a speech, anybody that wants to go and have a fundraiser, or if they want to go around and speak to many people inside the party, or if they want to find volunteers, whatever the case may be, those individuals inside the party are the decision makers. So now inside my county in Maricopa GOP, where I am, You have all these rhinos that are inside the party that do not support President Trump, and they are protecting the rhinos that are in office. And so now we bring it back to where the party expels me out. So right at the end of 2022, I was working on pretty much the same thing that I'm working on now, an effort to ensure that we have a fair election. And I had someone, approach me and say, "Hey, do you want to run for the AZGOP Executive Committee?" I said, "Sure, fine." But before I even ran for that position, I said to myself, "Okay, I'm holding the rhinos accountable, the Republicans in name only accountable, the people who don't support President Trump. Those people are going to come after me. They are going to try and possibly even maybe expel me out of the party." So I knew back in 2022, at the end of the year, this is late December. I said, "You know what? Yeah, they're going to try to expel me out of the party because I'm going to aggressively pursue having a fair election." And so, I become the pretty much the only Black member on the executive committee as a member at large. And then we start working. We start working to hold the legislature accountable. There was so much activity going on in 2023. I could give you so many examples, but here's one example I'll give you. So after we started in the first district, working, because there's 20 districts in Maricopa County. So we start working in the first district. We passed a censure against the two highest Republicans in the state legislature. And the state legislature is controlled by two individuals at the top. That would be the state president of the Senate and the state speaker of the House. So we passed a censure in one district out of 20. The next morning, I got a call from the highest ranking Republican in the state legislature the next morning after we passed that censure. And so, make a long story short, he calls me, he asks what's going on. He starts to say, "Well, do I need to come to your district? Or well, what is censuring going to do to me?" And blah, 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 blah. And so then I begin to ask him, "What is your solution to ensure that Maricopa County follows the AZ state election law?" And then he starts going off into a different subject. And I stop him again. And I say, "Hey, what is your solution to ensuring that Maricopa County follows the AZ state election law?" And so at that point, after the second time, he hangs up the phone. Then later, a couple weeks later, I get a call from the chair of the Arizona Republican Party. Now, I have a 47-minute phone call with the chair of the Arizona Republican Party. And we go back and forth for 47 minutes about who's responsible for the elections. And then at one point on that phone call, he says, "Well, you need to stop the censures. Stop these censures. Stop introducing the censures." And I told him no three different times. Then he says, "Well, if you don't stop the censures, I can have you removed from the party." So the establishment and the rhinos were planning to remove me from the party in 2023. This is at the beginning of 2023. And so now fast forward up until now, to about almost 2 weeks ago. My district had a vote to expel me out of the party. There was two different votes. They had the vote to strip me of everything that pretty much all my titles that are inside the party. And so I then come back to my home and I make a video, and that video winds up getting at one point it was just at 900,000 views. And then all of a sudden, the establishment starts freaking out because they never expected me to create a video talking about this, about me being expelled, about me being the only Black member on the executive committee, about the state legislature, about the stolen elections, all those other things. Signing up Trump precinct committeemen. You know, we signed up over 300 Trump precinct committeemen now, and so they were very, very concerned with that. And so now fast forward to just yesterday. So the establishment has put out 2 publications in local newspapers around here in Arizona. So now I have now got pretty much captured the attention of the entire state now because of fighting for a fair election, signing up Trump precinct committeemen, holding the state legislature accountable, and all the things that we've been working on. And so now what's also starting to happen, I'm starting to get calls from other people around different state GOPs, the Florida GOP, the Illinois GOP, the Georgia GOP, the Missouri GOP, the Louisiana GOP. So now I have all these state GOPs now contacting me saying, Christian, well, how did you do this? You know, because they've heard me talk about how I've used the power of precinct committeemen. I used the power of censure. I kicked out 3 rhinos that are inside the state legislature, elected Republicans who weren't doing their job, out of office. And so they're calling me and now asking me, how did you do this? And what do we need to do to replicate what you've done? So now I'm starting to get more people to not only become more aware of this power inside the party, but how to use the power. And really, I would say, you know, now that the video is up to 5.7 million views, I'm going to get more interviews just like this one. People are going to hear the message. It's going to spread around. And then, you know, eventually there's going to be more outlets who want to hear me speak or hear me talk about these things. And so that's really where we're at this point, and how I got expelled out of the party and what's going on right now in Arizona.
Wow, man. I'm a 10-time political candidate in Canada. I didn't look at American politics until Trump. And then I was fascinated. I was entertained. And I'm a lefty, too. I ran for the Green Party in 93 when I got 295 votes, and it was an embarrassment to my family. And so I don't understand the whole sovereignty of the states thing, but I can't believe that you don't have number one, a unified, some sort of ballot that's controlled by one entity. Like in Canada, we have a federal elections committee, and you might think that that's easier to corrupt a committee, a regulation body that oversees federal elections. But you got to have somebody to collect the votes. You got to have, I don't really get how it works in this. Well, I understand a little bit more now about it, but it was like when Portland was burning down. I didn't understand why Trump didn't just roll the tanks. Because the state sovereignty, right? You have to be invited in. I don't know what happened at the Capitol on January 6th. I know what happened. A bunch of guys walked through the Capitol and they're spending decades in jail. So what is it that you can see federally, at least? And I always say, if the war room was in place, if Bannon and Stone were in place, Pennsylvania would have never changed those voting laws, weeks before the election. Or months before the election, they illegally changed what was considered a vote, and now we're seeing illegals can vote without ID. And I hope I hope there's some fix for it. But at a federal level, what are some simple things, or is there anything simple that you see other than disallowing votes without signatures or from people that aren't residents of the state? Or mail-in ballots, if you had to rule those three things out, do you have any ideas about how you can make them fair, free, and secure? The federal election, like this is the most important election on the planet, right? This is the leader of the free world, we call them, and I just don't get how, Arizona got a lot of play, Maricopa County.
Distinguished guests, the President of the United States,
hang on.
Joe Biden.
Sorry, I got to mute this. Sorry, that's a distraction.
Hey, buddy.
I think we know how this is going to go. I appreciate
Thank
you
you,
staying
please.
on with me,
Appreciate
but I had this loaded up, and we'll just cancel that. So, sorry about that. I'm teasing everyone with Joe Biden coming up in the background. This is incredible what's happening in the States. My heart bleeds for my American friends and family because, and I had a girl on yesterday from Tennessee. It's almost like we had to go through this. We had to swing this far left into perversion to know how bad it could get. Trump got burned. We know that. I knew it the night I went to bed. I didn't know he was going to get burned. But in the morning when I woke up, I'm like, oh, this is all wrong. They had a water main break in Georgia. There's no water main break. There was so much fishy with this election. It was unbelievable. And now, similar to my country in Canada, you've got more than half the population that's completely indoctrinated into what the mainstream media tells them to believe, or whatever their government tells them to believe. So anyways, I'm long-winded. I want to get back to you. I want to know what your insights are. How do we tighten these things up so it's not so liable to be hijacked or stolen?
Well, so we have limitations, and the reason that we have limitations is the U.S. Constitution, as I've pointed out earlier, it is written and constructed in a way that ensures that the states run their own elections. There was even the U.S. Supreme Court case, Brnovich v. Democrat National Committee, which was a case that originated here in Arizona, where the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the power of the state legislature, and they struck down parts of the Voting Rights Act, the VRA, because it violated the state legislature's authority. And basically what the VRA was doing was inserting the Department of Justice into the states being able to prevent election fraud. And that's actually in the court's opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court. So the only thing that the federal government can do, really, I think, from the perspective of just ensuring at the minimum that we don't have a ton of people coming into the country illegally, is to shut down that border. That's the only thing that the federal government can do.
Wow.
Outside of maybe there was a bill, the SAVE Act, that they're proposing that stops people who are not citizens from being able to vote. But again, even in that kind of instance, the state legislature should be doing that. But again, this is a dysfunction, really, of the way that the American people, or the people of the United States, how we see politics or politicians or government. Because what often happens is, and I was just talking about this earlier, people will say, we need to get rid of the Department of Education, or we need to get rid of the Fed, or just how they're saying, well, illegals shouldn't be able to vote. Well, my response to that is, what are we doing inside the political power to make sure that we have individuals inside of the legislative branch that can actually write these laws and use leverage from a budget perspective that will ensure that they do get that law passed and signed by the executive, whether at the state or federal level? And so we have a lot of folks in our country that want to have a fair election, but I don't think people really understand that in order for you to get a fair election, you need to strong arm a lot of these politicians, and that requires doing some of the things that I've been doing and that we've been doing inside our state, using the political power of precinct committeemen and the power of censure, signing up new precinct committeemen, positioning ourselves on the real ball game of politics across the chessboard, having pieces in place to move the government. That's the only way you're going to get there. And because even today you had 10 members inside of the U.S. House or more that stopped the SAVE Act from passing, and then you had that inherent contempt that also got stopped in the U.S. House. So, in order to deal with these things, you have to be active inside the political party, and literally, as I say, strong arming these politicians and saying, look, if you don't do X or 1, 2, 3, then you're out of office. We are going to disqualify you from running for re-election. And that is possible if you are involved in the political party.
Cool, man. What's up for you next? What's your path? What do you see for yourself? You look like a pretty bright, motivated guy, so you must have a plan of where you're going next. What's up for you?
Well, right now, I mean, we have this problem with our elections, and then we have all these vacancies inside the party. So, as I said, I signed up almost 300 new precinct committeemen. And so I'm going to continue working on activating those folks to start recruiting and to continue recruiting. Some people are already recruiting, others. I need to get those other people to recruit. And so, that's going to be my focus at this point. And then also, we've got a few weeks before the state primary election in Arizona. And then Tuesday, November the 5th is a few months away. So, we're going to be continuing to put the pressure on the state legislature, and literally just by me putting out a video, a 9-minute and 22-second video, we have moved the legislature in so many different ways just by doing that. I mean, and as I mentioned earlier, we actually have moved the 2 highest Republicans that are in the state legislature in the way that we want them to go. We just have to continue to do that because what we're doing is working.
We kind of did this backwards, but I'm interested in who you are as a man and how you got to where you are now. I'm surprised we went this far without talking about God, but we don't like to mix God and politics, do we? You certainly do. I'm a Christian guy. I don't lead with it, type of thing. Just like I don't let you lead with my sexual orientation. It's just inappropriate. I don't care who you believe. You know what I mean? Of course, I want everyone to be a Christian, but tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and how you got here. The old saying, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. Well, I see a politician in front of me, and you might be a really fine politician and know how to work a good interview, but I care more about who you are as a man. So tell us about how you grew up and what was important to you and some of your mentors. And you have a father in your life in the house for the whole time? Because I think that's the number one problem facing especially the black community, but right across the board, but especially the black community, is fatherlessness. That to me, the breaking of the family unit in the States especially was the end of it all. And I think that's where the root cause of most of our issues is our sons are brought up by mentors that are gang members and not good, solid men in the house. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and mentors and your pops, if you have, if your parents and everything that's involved in getting you to where you are now. I think that's of interest to some people that you might not have talked about on other political shows.
Yeah. So I'm originally born and raised from Detroit, Michigan. I was raised by my father and mother. My
Lions fan?
Say that again.
Lions fan?
I'm actually I was probably a Lions fan in my earlier
Okay.
days. I'm turning 40 in a few
Okay.
weeks.
All right.
And so I was raised by my father and mother. My father is a Vietnam veteran. My grandfather is a World War II veteran, and my aunt is also a retired colonel from the Army. I have two older sisters. They are both married. They have children, and so my two sisters they have homes. They live in the Metro Detroit area, and my father and mother as well live in the Metro Detroit area. Um, and I decided to come out in Phoenix, Maricopa County in 2002, and really at that time, that's when I really started to get more acclimated with information technology. Of course, information technology is my day job, what I
Okay.
do by trade.
All right.
And then as far as uh, how I got involved in politics, um, it really started with the criminal justice system. So just like Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, and President Trump, I had to fight my own false charges inside of the criminal justice system as well. And so, I had to work inside of, or I had to work my own case inside the city court, the county court, the state court, as well as the federal court. I held my own deposition as well, administered my own deposition. So, I know a lot about the criminal justice system. I know a lot about 14th Amendment law, Section 1983, the civil action against the deprivation of rights. I know a lot about prosecutors, like exculpatory evidence, Brady violations. I know a lot about those things. Um, and really, one of the main reasons that I decided to um, become a Republican because I had not always been a Republican, and a lot of that had to do with, when you first register to vote, it's almost like you are bombarded by the left or the Democrats with information or what you should do as a young person, et cetera, et cetera. You have entertainment industry and all these other different facets that move you in the direction of the left. And so when I had to fight my own false case inside the courts, and when I was learning U.S. Supreme Court cases, learning about the 14th Amendment, learning about the history of the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, and when I started to dive into all those things, Section 1983, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, I started to begin to understand that it was the Republicans that protected equal protection, due process of law, all these other things, enforcing all of our laws. I mean, that's what the 14th Amendment does. So once I saw all of that, I decided at that point that, from that point forward, that I would always be Republican no matter what, just because of what I know about the history. And so, from there, I just started. The very first thing I did to really, or even backing up before I really delved into the Republican committees and the Republican Party, I would have these series that I would do on social media. At the time, it was Periscope and Facebook. And so I did a series about Bob Mueller and the Rod Rosenstein scam against President Trump. I did a series on Kamala Harris. I did a series on the coronavirus scam, COVID-19. And between all those videos, I got over 800,000 views between all of those videos. And so then I finally, after a while, I decided to, do a little bit more than just be on social media. And so one of the first things I did was I attended a Republican committee meeting for the first time in January 2018, the Maricopa County Republican Committee meeting that's annual, and the AZGOP state meeting that's also annual. And so fast forward, that's how I got started. I spent a significant amount of time around the party. And I would even say in 2018, so let's just back up. When I first attended a Republican meeting in 2018, an official Republican committee meeting, people thought I was running for office in 2018. So it was not until 2021, after the 2020 election was stolen, and I started the process of kicking out a rhino out of office, did some people come to me and say, hey, you really, really need to run for office. And, and even at that time, I still wasn't really all that much sold about, running for office at all. I just wasn't really sold about it. But one of the things that really got me over was I started to get state committeemen and precinct committeemen asking me to run for office. So when that started, that's when I decided to run. And then so I announced running for office in April of 2021. The first night when I made my announcement that I was running for office, I did it in front of precinct committeemen. So for those at home paying attention, how we talked about the importance of precinct committeemen, I announced in front of precinct committeemen. So, and nobody knew, it was a surprise. And so once I made that announcement, that night I raised $1,000. That night, in the first 30 days, I raised $10,000. And so I took it that, I made the right decision in deciding to run for office. We had a contested primary, and we fought 3 rhinos, and of course we made it. We won the primary. We got to the general election, and then of course we know what happened in the general election in Maricopa County in 2022 with the stolen election, the shrink to fit ballots.
I think this is going to get me thrown off YouTube for sure. You can't talk
and
about that
the 1 second or millisecond signature verification, and all of those things, and really my district was one of the districts that was massively impacted by the not only the shrink to fit ballots, but even the signature verification. And why? Because my district was one of the last, not only legislative districts, but congressional districts that were called in the election. So I know that my election was severely impacted by all of it.
Awesome, man. I love your heart. I love you. And what do you need? Like anyone that might be stumbling across this in the next days or weeks or months or whatever, what can we do to support you? And what do you need from people that might be watching?
Well, the best way that people can support me at this point is to continue to share that video. Shout out to all the people who actually have shared out that video, over 5.7 million views. And it's caused the rhinos in the establishment to now put out, fake news articles about me. So kudos to everybody that's shared that video. But please, if you have not shared that video, go to my X account, or formerly known as Twitter, Christian L. Lamar. It's pinned at the top of my profile. There's over 900 quotes on that post. Please go in that quote section, repost those positive quotes in that quote section. That's what ensures that we get more views on that. The more views that I get on that video, the more people are going to hear about Arizona, the stolen elections, the state legislature, the power of precinct committeemen. They're going to, that message is going to continue to spread like wildfire. And no matter how small your account is, I don't care if you have 2 followers on your account, okay? If you are reposting those quote posts, right, or even if you create a quote post yourself, You are helping to push those views up. It works. So that's the best thing that you can do for me, because that video is vital. And I mean, it's the best video that I've ever made on social media, with the response that we've gotten. And of course, if anybody is if anybody would like to become a precinct committeeman, of course, all the states have different acronyms. There's precinct chair, precinct committee person, central committee member, precinct delegate. There's town members, whatever you want to call it. If you want to become a precinct committeeman or any of those other types of positions, send me a direct message. All of my social media is open. My Twitter X is open. My Instagram is open. My Facebook is open. I've got a True Social account. All of them are Christian L. Lamar. So you can do that as well. And then if you want to hear me speak about being a precinct committeeman, or watch training videos, you can find a lot of training material on Rumble. There's a ton of training material videos where I've had either interviews or I've had training sessions over Zoom calls. And so I've gone over a lot of this stuff in depthly. And then there's a whole bunch of personal material that I have written pertaining to political power, precinct committeemen, the state legislature, political power. Check out my interview with Pastor Darrell Scott, the senior 2024 advisor for Trump. He was gracious enough to allow me on his platform. Watch that interview. That interview, I go over a lot of these things, and that's more of a short form of it. But that's how you can help me, is to continue to get that video shared out, and help us to double those numbers. Let's get 10 million views, and let's get even more views than that, because that is really how we are not only making things happen inside of the political party, inside the state legislature. That's really the key, really. And people need to hear that message. And, I hear a lot of people, and one more thing, a lot of people always say, well, why don't you contact Laura Trump? Why don't you contact the GOP or the RNC? And, my response is to that, well, a lot of people like to put pressure on, whether it's President Trump or Laura Trump or the Trump family, but they already have a ton of pressure, things that they're dealing with. And then people say, well, why don't you contact the GOP or the RNC? Well, most of the GOP or the RNC is establishment rhinos. Just because Laura Trump became the co-chair of the RNC, that doesn't mean that all of the establishment figures are gone. You still have all those other members within the RNC, and that is and I'll tell you right now, me being expelled out of the party, that is a reflection of how many rhinos are inside of the party. So no, we can't rely on the RNC. We can't rely on the GOP. We can't overload the Trump family. We have to do this ourselves. And so that's why I'm asking everybody to share those videos and send me messages, ask me questions about becoming one of the members of a Republican committee, because that is going to help us by getting you signed up wherever you are in your county living in the United States.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your depth of knowledge too. So what I'll do is I'll have you back when we've got more time, and I'll turn YouTube off so we can talk about this stuff. We can talk about whatever we want on Twitch and, well, I'm not on Rumble, but Twitter's fine, but I don't know if we can say what we said earlier without getting me a strike on my channel. It doesn't matter. It's not monetized, but I get a pretty decent YouTube channel that, well, was gone for 3 years, but on the 15th appeal it got put back up. And also, my apologies with my running around. I was trying to get the big boy press conference done live here before we started, and I misspelled your last name in the title of this show. But this is being broadcast from my @JimFan and live account because I can't go live on my big account for some reason. Twitter's finally digging into it. Hopefully I'll have it solved soon. I will upload another copy of this and put all the tags in it and spell your name right. So my apologies for that. But I love you, man. You look like you're doing well, and you got your head screwed on straight, and I hope things go different this time around. I will be watching. Yeah. I will be watching from down here in the Dominican Republic. I haven't been home in almost 3 years in October.
Wow.
And I'm a 10-time political candidate. The last time I tried to run for a party, they actually turned me down, I guess, after they scrubbed my media, my social media. They said, no, we're not having you. So I love you, brother. Thank you for the time and the information. Wow, you got a lot of it. And so next time, we'll spend a little bit more time getting deeper into what you know about what happened and what we can do to fix it. And then we'll make sure that YouTube's off. So peace and love, my brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Yep.
Anytime. That's how you do that. Christian Lamar. Sorry about the spelling mistake. That's horrible. We're going to go, Biden's still taking questions, so we're going to go live to that now. And for those of you that are watching on Twitter, well, it doesn't matter where you're watching, where you're watching from. We'll be back with stumbling, fumbling Joe Biden. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and I am out.